The native Android world is in trouble. That's at least a feeling you quickly get when reading through YouTube comments and Instagram DMs from Android developers all day. Typical comments are, my clients want an app for both platforms, not only Android, Google Play's requirements are becoming more and more ridiculous, or Android Studio is just such a buggy IDE. Is that a sign that native Android development is on a downward spiral? I agree with all those comments I just went over, to some part. A lot of clients want an app for both platforms. That's correct. Google Play's requirements are partly ridiculous. That's correct. And yes, Android Studio certainly has some bugs. But I want to say something about all of that. And starting with the cross-platform frameworks, that's definitely a trend I'm seeing as well. Among the most popular we have Flutter, React Native, Kotlin multi-platform, now with Compose multi-platform to also build UI for iOS and Android. And to be honest with you, I would be happy about one of them becoming the norm for app building, since then I could adapt to that technology and also build iOS apps. But it's not so easy. If you think back, people have been saying for over a decade that cross-platform frameworks will completely take over the market. And that's still not happening. The problem that I see is that people always try to look for that one-size-fits-all approach, which simply doesn't exist. And if you try to bring the advantages of two different technologies together, native Android and native iOS, you will have to accept partly heavy compromises. And that doesn't mean that cross-platform can't be better for use case A and native development for use case B. For sure. But a world in which cross-platform is the better pick for any type of app you're going to build, I currently don't see, as long as there are two quite different operating systems. With cross-platform you can certainly build some very cool apps, and getting two apps out of one is just very cool. But on the flip side, you will always find people talking about performance drawbacks, difficult code-based maintenance, large app size, and so on. So regarding this point, it really doesn't matter what you pick, there will be work for you. And now coming to the second part of this video, which is more about those aspects that suck about native Android development. We all know them. Gradle builds, buggy emulators, just a buggy IDE, buggy Android Studio, ridiculous Google Play requirements, especially with the recent change where you need 20 testers in order to just release an app as a normal person. And these things of course exist and they suck. But do you know what also exists for us Android developers? A great programming language, in my opinion the best one out there. Then we have a great customizable IDE, especially when it comes to shortcuts. Trust me, once you've worked with Xcode, you know what I'm talking about. And we have a comparably open ecosystem with Android, which allows us developers quite a lot of freedom. Yes, this got a bit more limited over time, but it's definitely not as limited as iOS. And these are things we know, but often don't take into perspective. Because tell me a field which is perfect and nobody complains about. It doesn't exist. So while we Android developers complain about Gradle, Android Studio, Google Play requirements, iOS developers will complain about Xcode. They will complain about the App Store and being forced to publish your app there. They will complain about weird signing profiles. Then front-end developers will complain about different browser types and compatibility issues. They will complain about dozens of web development frameworks which are all in the end built on top of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And nobody really knows which one of these is right. And then backend developers, they complain about difficult database migrations. They will complain about having to configure tons of different environments. They will complain about cloud services and their limitations. So as you see, every field has good and has bad sides. However, the more we are into a field, the more we know what sucks about this field, and the less we know what sucks about other fields. And that is what gives us the feeling that only our chosen field, our chosen niche is bad and the grass is greener everywhere else. And if people switch their field just because of issues in their current field, with the hope of not having such issues in the other field, that often leads to problems. Because they just see the bad sides in the current field since they know them really well, and then only compare those bad sides of their current field with the new field, and they won't find these bad sides in the new field, but they will find new bad sides which they don't yet know about. Like when an Android developer would dive into front-end development, they would think, oh, no more emulators, no more heavy IDE, finally no more Gradle. And all that's true, we don't use that for web development. But just because those bad sides of Android don't apply to web, doesn't mean that web doesn't have bad sides. So if you've been thinking about switching your field, then take a step back and first of all think why you want to do that in the first place. If native Android development is just not enjoyable for you anymore and you don't even see the good sides as good sides anymore, then please try out other fields because that might be a very good decision. But if you like parts of Android development and just think about switching because of its bad sides, you won't find that perfect field on this planet. And now I would be very interested in your experience about this. Did you ever think about quitting Android? Why so? Did you try out other fields? Did you had some hope that these other fields were better than Android, and how did it actually turn out? Let us have a little discussion in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you back in the next one. Have an amazing rest of your week. Bye bye.